So I was given F123 early by Codemasters. Thanks for them for actually helping out with this video. And I wanted to talk about my first thoughts and opinions on the game based on everything that I've had access to. Firstly, I do want to say this is slightly different to the beta. This is a content creator's hands-on that gave us access to some of the features of the game so that we can showcase it to you guys specifically. Second, and most importantly, this is not the same build that you guys are going to receive on the 13th or the 16th of June. So there will be slight differences from what you see here compared to the final release. For example, not all the cars in the content creator build have been finalized. And lastly, you're not going to hear anything about Breaking Point 2 in this video, just simply because we can't talk about that just yet. But as soon as we can, I will. So yeah, guys, let's talk about F123 and my first thoughts on the game. So what I've done is I've talked about the features separately in this video so that it's easier for you guys to consume. So just look at the player and find whichever feature that you guys want to learn more about. So the first feature we're going to be talking about is the AI. How similar are they to F122, and you know, have they been improved or have they gotten worse in any sort of way? So far, not really too much to say about the AI. I would say that they're very similar to F122, but one thing I have noticed is they do seem to be more aggressive when it comes to defending a position. Obviously, there was a lot of issues that happened on F122 in terms of the AI, especially in co-op. Yeah, other than that, they pretty much do feel the exact same in terms of how they interact with you, the driver, as you're driving through the field, as you're battling with certain people. So yeah, expect to see very similar-ish AI on F123. So in terms of pace with the AI, I usually use 110 on F122, and I plan on doing the same on F123. And so far, they seem to be the same. Maybe it's been increased a little bit, but maybe it's just because setups aren't really a thing right now. So once we've started to build setups, maybe they'll start to even out a little bit and they'll basically feel the same. There are a few cars right now that have been finalized, so when you're checking out other videos on the game as well, make sure to look out for these cars because Codemasters themselves have said that these are finalized. So the Red Bull, the McLaren, the Aston Martin, the AlphaTauri, the Alpine, and the Alfa Romeo have all been finalized according to Codemasters. So all the other cars, which are basically, I believe, the Mercedes, the Williams, the Haas, and Ferrari, those haven't been finalized yet. So if you see that they've got side pods where they shouldn't, or if the wheel doesn't look accurate, yeah, it hasn't been finalized yet, but the rest of them have. And I kind of wanted to talk about the graphics in this section just because, you know, technically the car are a part of the looks of the game. I kind of do like the yellowish tint that they've got on the game, but I can see why people wouldn't necessarily like it. Personally, I do feel it looks kind of similar to some of the realistic video F1 videos that you see on Assetto Corsa that people upload. I kind of like that style and how it looks, and I feel like F123's color scheme sort of gives me that same vibe. So this new controller feature, Precision Drive, that they're talking about, I'm not really a controller player, but when I did try it out with my controller, it did feel responsive, more responsive than I remember it being on F1 2020 and F1 2019, which, to be honest, those were probably the two main games that I even used the controller at any point. I guess you could say this Precision Drive definitely does help, and definitely you feel more confident when going through corners on the controller. One thing I did notice, probably is a feature for a while now though, because again, I'm not a controller player, but when you're starting with a controller and you've got that vibration that happens as you're finding the bite point of the car, yeah, you get mega launches. Some of the launches I've had on the controller is miles better than some of the starts I've had on the wheel. The next feature I really was looking forward to talking about are red flags. However, sadly, red flags are not a part of this version of the build that we've been given access to. So yeah, that kind of sucks. I really did want to try out the red flags and see how they were, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait in terms of that.
Oh, brother, this stinks!
So when it comes to F123, there have been some changes to the tracks, most of them being visual. However, some of them are just normal visual changes, whereas others actually do affect the gameplay slightly. For example, with Silverstone, especially at Chapel, there's a lot more runoff there, and especially with the right-hander and then the left kink as well going into DRS zone, there's a little bit of runoff area there, which there wasn't before. I do believe other corners are slightly different different as well in terms of that. The main visual change that affects gameplay that I saw on the build that we've got is at Canada with this with the Wall of Champions corner. Going into that corner, the meter boards are no longer on the grass, they're actually on the fence area. And the reason why that's not game changing, but at least, you know, it changes the gameplay for that particular corner, is because you can't take out the meter boards anymore, so you don't need to necessarily worry about focusing on other things like the little bump that's there as your reference point for the braking. You can literally just look at the meter board and be able to brake there, because there's not really any chances of someone accidentally taking it out. And other than that, you know, obviously it's just brand changes or color changes, or, you know, just general visual changes for the entire track based on the filters that's been used on the game, etc, etc. The next new feature that's coming to F1 23 are the 35% races. I've wanted the 35% races for a while now, because I do think they're sort of like a sweet spot, and they did have the 35% races in esports. Obviously they no longer do that in esports now, it's now 50% races, but I still think that the 35% races are a happy medium, you know, in between the 25 and the 50. I think a lot of community based stuff are probably going to be 35% races moving forward, and maybe even some high level, you know, community esports leagues might do some 35% races. I don't know, but yeah, personally I think it's a good length, because it's roughly about half an hour, which is long enough for the casual player to really get enough you know, race action, and it's still, you know, short enough for people who don't necessarily want to do 100% races all the time. So yeah, I think 35% races are a happy feature to come into the next game. Now, the handling model, which is probably the feature that you guys want to hear most about. Yeah, I can confirm that traction is much easier in lower gears, especially when you're starting as well. On F1 22, when you were starting, you had to shift up to basically fourth gear straight away, even in dry conditions, and in wet conditions it was as high as 6th gear, and you still got wheel spin even in those higher gears. But on this game, on F1 23, even in first gear, when you're starting the car at the beginning of the race, you still don't really get that much wheel spin. You still do get it, but just not nearly as much. So yeah, traction is definitely better in the lower gears, which is a massive plus. It does seem as if third gear is going to be the best gear for acceleration, I've noticed. On F1 22, I think it was actually 4th gear. So yeah, it's basically just 1 gear lower, which is good. It means that guys who tend to use the lower gears are going to probably feel a lot more comfortable as well. When it comes to locking up, that definitely feels more punishing. I feel like you do lose a lot more time when you do lock up the tires. When I first tried the game, I went onto time trial, went into Bahrain just to try a couple of laps and see how it felt. Broke at my normal spot into turn 1, locked up the tires, and just went flying off of the track. So yeah, it does seem as if locking up is a lot more punishing. So especially with the better traction as well, if you're locking up, then you can't get on the power as early, which means that you're going to lose a lot of time as well. So that's a good thing. One thing that a lot of you guys will want to hear is, yes, the downforce levels are pretty similar to F1 2020, so you can take a lot of corners flat out and actually use the downforce that F1 cars are known for. For example, even with default setups on soft tires, hops is flat at Silverstone, which, you know, even with some of the most aggressive setups on F1 22, you still had to lift a little bit and downshift to 7th gear around hops. Now, the levels of grip that you get has been very noticeable when coming out of the pits as well. I noticed when I did a race and I came out of the pits on hard tires, and obviously, you know, they're cold, you've just put them on, you need to heat them up. You still felt as if you had a lot of grip. On the previous game, as soon as you came out of the pits on hard tires that were cold, they were basically undrivable for the first like half a lap, and then you'd slowly start to get a bit of heat in the tires, and then maybe it became a little bit more drivable as time went on. But yeah, no, even with cold hard tires on F1 23, you know, just come out of the pits, it still feels as if you have grip. Obviously you'll naturally be slower, but it still feels as if that grip is there, which is really good. So yeah, overall I would say that F1 23's handling model is very similar to F1 2020. Not exactly the same. I do feel like, for example, locking up and going around certain corners, you know, is still more punishing or less grip than it is on F1 2020. I definitely think that game is easier, but it's a massive upgrade from F1 22. There's still a lot of stuff that we don't know about the game, and we're not going to find out until the game's fully released and we get our hands on the finished product. And personally, I wouldn't really judge the game until the first patch, actually, because that's usually when we sort of get an idea of where the game's future is really going. So yeah, guys, I really recommend maybe waiting until the first patch before we decide exactly, you know, how good this game is going to be, because I jumped the gun last year and I was like, yeah, based on what I felt, this was definitely going to be, you know, the best F1 game. And then F1 22 turned out to be a game that, you know, for the most part, a lot of people didn't necessarily enjoy. So yeah, again, there's a lot of stuff to come when it comes to what we can show you, and obviously what we don't even know yet. So just keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and enjoy the content that you're about to see from myself and other creators as well. So yeah, that's it when it comes to some of the more newer features on the game, and we're still allowed to show you quite a lot of stuff. So during this showcasing period, I've tried to make content that is both entertaining and yet still shows off all the features that have been teased in the trailers and the deep dives and stuff like that. So I hope that you guys do enjoy that content as well. We are allowed an hour to stream the game, so please let me know in the comment section if there's, you know, any sort of ideas of what you would like me to do for that hour. There's only so much I can do because we've not been given a whole lot, but yeah, I'll try my best when it comes to that live stream. I'll probably schedule it within the next week or something like that as well. So yeah, just leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know, you know, any sort of ideas of what you would like to see live. Make sure to smash the like button for some more F1 23 content. Also, I would like to thank everyone who's currently a channel member for joining the membership and supporting the channel as well. You know, it's massively appreciated. If you guys do want to join, get some extra content, get some other stuff as well, make sure to click the join button down below next to the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in my next video.